Life is hard. The grind of obligations, stresses, frustrations. Sometimes it feels like we're barely keeping our heads above water. And so we sometimes ask ourselves, why do we bother? Why do we even live? What's in it for us? I believe we live for something so human that we often overlook it. We live for the aesthetic experience of life. We talk about living for happiness, for love, for family, and those are all important. But what underpins all these things is our ability to experience their beauty, to feel their meaning, to savor their significance. That ability is what I call the aesthetic experience. Aesthetic experience is the way we savor and find meaning in both art and the moments of our lives. It's about being able to appreciate, being able to step back and say, this matters, this is beautiful, this is meaningful. Aesthetic experience provides our most fundamental reward for living. And when we get right down to it, our most compelling reason to live. It's what we ultimately get out of life. So, what is aesthetic experience? What do I mean by it? Aesthetic experience is a uniquely human ability to savor, to notice, reflect, to get emotions from understanding, to get emotions from the meaning of what we encounter. It's appreciation for the sake of appreciation. It's the ability to step back from the world and say, this is significant. Aesthetic experience is what it means to experience life as a human being. As humans, we're able to not only taste life, but to also appreciate our taste of life. Our capacity to stand outside of experience and understand it imbues experience itself with the reward of the feeling of significance. We appreciate life aesthetically like we appreciate a painting, a sculpture, or a piece of music. When we think of aesthetic experience, we think of art because art exists for one purpose, to evoke aesthetic experience. That's what art is for. A painting, a poem, a song. They don't do anything practical. They don't feed us or shelter us, but they feed our souls. They stop us in our tracks, and they remind us of what it means to be alive and of why we bother living at all, what we live for. And this is why we see cave paintings since the dawn of mankind. Art speaks to our primal need for meaningful aesthetic experience. Consider how art affects us. It doesn't just offer enjoyment. It evokes deep feelings that linger, making us reflect and find a meaning, and allowing us to get pleasure from the meaning itself, even when the meaning is dark or painful. In the same way, the moments of our lives are able to stir us, and our meaningful experience lingers as an ongoing payoff, an ongoing reason to keep living, to live. Imagine watching a sunset. You don't just see colors in the sky. You feel the connection between that moment and your life. In that moment, you're not just alive, you're aware of being alive. You're aware of the beauty of the world, of your place in it, and of something big and poignant. And that big, poignant feeling comes from our human ability to have aesthetic experience. So how do we do this? Essentially, our brain is able to tie comprehension to emotion, making both art and life deeply moving for us. Grasping meaning sends chills down our spines and lets our life feel significant and worth living, even during difficult times. Aesthetic experience gives us a tingle of meaning, something we humans need in order to feel fulfilled. This tingle of meaning is our emotional response to grasping significance. This capacity isn't mystical. We humans evolved into conceptual beings that can grasp meaning. It's a gift we've developed over hundreds of thousands of years as we've learned to notice patterns, reflect on existence, and conceptually comprehend meaning. We've gotten to where meaningfulness itself feels rewarding for us. Even our struggles can feel rewarding because we can see their meaningfulness. Bottom line, aesthetic experience lets us find symbolic, meaning-based rewards in living, rewards that exponentially enrich the satisfaction we're able to get out of being alive. So, why does all this matter? For humans, living is not a biological imperative, but rather a choice. After all, we commit suicide. As humans, we're aware that we're alive, and we need reasons to continue living. We don't just need food and shelter, we need meaning. Without it, life is empty, and we struggle for a reason to keep going. Aesthetic experience is crucial to why we keep going. It's not just a pleasant bonus of being human. It's central to our existence as thinking, reflecting beings. We live because we get a sort of meta pleasure from meaningfulness itself. We live for our chance to taste life and have a meaningful experience of it. We live to have a full, significant, appreciatory taste of life. The whole point of living for humans is not just to survive, but to exploit our chance at experiencing life in meaningful ways. We love for the sake of love. We write music to create beauty and to see if we can do it. We fight for political rights and treat people well because we want to live, or most of us want to live, in a just and benevolent world. That's the aesthetic experience we want. We accomplish goals for the experience of pride and for appreciating something we did well. Most animals don't need this, but we do. We really do. We humans aren't motivated merely by eating grubs in a cave. We want to drink wine from crystal glasses. We want to celebrate. We want to know what it's like to stand on the moon or Mars. We ultimately live for beautiful, interesting, fulfilling aesthetic experiences. Despite what existentialists might say, life doesn't involve just rolling rocks up a hill. Far from it. The net reward we get from life in terms of aesthetic experience is often much greater than the work required to stay alive, especially in the modern world and in regions that enjoy freedom. Life is like a stage play in which we're both the actor and the audience. We get to be the audience too. And it starts happening when the curtains go up, and then it's over when the curtains go down. Nothing practical comes of it for us at the end except for the aesthetic experience of the journey or the play. The reason for the play and the reason for our life is ultimately and most profoundly for the aesthetic experience of it. Dostoevsky once said, "The secret of man's being is not only to live, but to have something to live for." That something is meaning. And the reward of meaning is the feeling we get from significance. It's the moments that made us laugh or cry or stand in awe. It's the beauty we witnessed and the meaning we created. It's about living in such a way that we can look back and say, yes, that was worth it. That was deeply meaningful. This is the gift that aesthetic experience gives us. It helps us recognize and feel the significance of life, even in difficult times. It transforms the mundane and perhaps even painful into something profound, something to be proud of, something that's worth living because we can appreciate it as meaningful. And the good news is that there is an abundance of aesthetic experience if we look for it and appreciate it. Watching the stars, scuba diving, a deep and secure love. Aesthetic experience is everywhere. It's in the way sunlight dances on water or leaves rustle in the trees. It's in the way we laugh at a joke or cry at a bittersweet memory. It's all laced with meaning. And aesthetic experience lets us get emotional reward from that meaning. Aesthetic experience includes anything that's meaningful or moving for us because it's beautiful or pleasurable, or it makes us feel alive, or it taps into our deepest values. Even negative experiences can carry profound meaning, adding mature depth to the storied experience of our life. And although aesthetic experiences are all around us, they only really register for us if we appreciate them as aesthetic experiences, if we're open to it, if we prize the moments, if we prize aesthetic experience in our life enough and give it the honor in our life that it's due. I want to take one moment to discuss purpose and fulfillment. One of the great struggles of life is figuring out what to live for. And I believe the fundamental answer touches on or lies in our aesthetic experience. I suggest we live for the purpose of having a full and fulfilling aesthetic experience of life, because this is fundamentally what we get out of life. It's not so much about external metrics of success, but rather setting the full experience of your time alive as your purpose. Trying to live the fullest aesthetic experience you can while you still have this amazing chance to live. With fulfillment as our purpose, every personally fulfilling pursuit and moment becomes valid, assuming we're not infringing on the rights of others. With this standard, we need never feel guilty about taking time for what's truly important to our experience of life, whether it's working toward a goal, a meaningful goal, or caring for a loved one, or appreciating the wind blowing across a field of flowers. Having meaningful experiences is the gold standard of being alive. Such experiences are our very reason for living, and they should serve as our ultimate purpose and standard when choosing how to ultimately spend our time alive. Too often, we take life and our aesthetic experience of it for granted, as if this human gift of ours were mere background noise. It's like fish failing to notice the water they live in. We don't notice our human capacity to appreciate and to have an aesthetic experience. But it's a gift, and we should recognize it as such. Taking life for granted, we experience the opposite of aesthetic experience, succumbing instead to an anesthetic experience, a numbness, a lack of appreciating this chance to live. We should awaken to our aesthetic experience. Our challenge is to shake off the anesthetic of familiarity while we still have a life to live, a universe to taste, and an existence to appreciate. At least before we die, we should learn to celebrate our existence. Our challenge is to awaken to our aesthetic potential, to savor life's beauty, celebrate its wonder, and embrace the privilege of being alive. Our life and our chance to appreciate it are the greatest gifts we will ever have. In this cold and lonely universe, we are a witness to its majesty. Despite the transience of our glimpse, it's sufficiently meaningful that there's been a witness, including a witness to our own self and life. Our chance to be alive is like our chance to witness beauty. It ultimately does not matter that the beauty fades. It's enough that the beauty did exist and that we got the chance to both witness it and love it.